Tonight, we have Director of the Texas Cannabis Policy Center, Heather Fazio, joining us. Heather, thanks so much for taking the time.
Thanks for having me.
So, Senate Bill 3 proposes a total ban on consumable THC products. What are your main concerns about the bill, particularly regarding its potential impact on the hemp industry and its many consumers here in the state?
Well, in 2018, the federal government legalized hemp, and Texas followed suit in 2019. Since then, we've seen the hemp industry really bloom, and consumers are enjoying the products that they're using. Arrests for possession have plummeted, which I think is a good thing. Our biggest concern with SB 3 is that it would criminalize the possession of these federally legal products. This would mean law enforcement arresting people, prosecutors having to move forward with convicting those who have this federally legal product again and saddling them with a criminal record. This is unfair. It's taking a step backwards, and we hope that we can convince the Texas House to move forward with regulation rather than prohibition.
Well, there certainly is that difference between the federal and state laws that could be a little bit confusing, but supporters of SB 3 argue that banning THC products would protect minors from unregulated and intoxicating substances. We saw some of those family members at a press conference yesterday. What alternative regulatory measures would you propose instead of prohibition?
There are a lot of shared concerns. We absolutely think that these products need to be kept away from young people, and we want to make sure that they're safe for consumers. This can all be accomplished through regulation, instituting age restrictions, packaging and advertising standards, and making sure that businesses selling THC are set back from schools, just like alcohol.
But Heather, you mentioned the R word there, regulation, in a Republican-dominated legislature. Is that realistic to expect the GOP legislators to push through some regulation?
Well, adopting a policy of prohibition really hands over the market to the illicit industry. It ensures that we do not have people IDing consumers. It ensures that there are no testing, labeling, and packaging requirements. So the smart way to actually get a grip of this industry from the state's perspective is to institute regulations. This is talked about in a way that it says it's unregulated, but that simply isn't true. There are federal regulations, there are state regulations in multiple agencies, including the Texas Department of Agriculture and the Texas Department of State Health Services. This is absolutely something that can be done right if we step up to the plate.
And what do you see as the economic ramifications of a THC ban on the $8 billion hemp industry here in our state?
Well, not only is it an $8 billion industry, but it employs more than 50,000 Texans. This could have a devastating impact on those small businesses who are operating under the law. And we'd like to see regulation so that those folks can stay in business. And of course, making sure that we're holding bad actors accountable. We agree that there are people flying under the regulatory radar right now. And we'd like to see the Texas Department of State Health Services enforcing the regulations on the books and legislators stepping up the level of regulation to protect young people and make sure products are safe for consumers.
And we've seen that the Senate has passed their version of the bill. It pretty much closes the door on THC consumables. You mentioned earlier the House and hoping that you have more of an open reception there. What sort of would you expect from the House that could be workable for people in your industry?
Well, based on the office visits that we've had, that our allies have had, there just isn't an appetite for outright prohibition of THC in the Texas House. Of course, we have to remember that that chamber is much closer to the people of Texas, and they're more accurately reflecting the sentiment amongst their constituents. The citizens of Texas do not want to continue cannabis prohibition in our state, and the only way to move forward in a way that is in the interest of public health and safety is to effectively regulate these products.
Switching topics slightly, there is in the House HB 1790 by Austin Representative John Busey, which proposes a statewide decriminalization of small amounts of marijuana. We've seen these kinds of proposals before. How do you address concerns from opponents who argue that decriminalization could lead to increased recreational use among minors?
Well, we haven't seen any evidence that proves that. What we would see is far fewer Texans being saddled with criminal records. Not only does criminalization waste the time and resources of law enforcement and prosecutors, it also means that many Texans are saddled with a criminal record that hinders their access to education, employment, even housing. There are better ways to deal with youth accessing cannabis or using cannabis. Prohibition does not and has never actually worked. This is a much deeper issue that we have to make sure we're leaning on parents, making sure they're well informed, and talking to their kids about alcohol and cannabis, maybe in the same conversation.
Well, Heather, this is a big topic this session. I'm sure we'll keep an eye on it, and thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you very much.